two justice systems here in the United States, one for the rich and one for the poor. And the poor couldn't get the same outcome as someone with who's rich. And I said, you can take a case and you can have someone with money get a DWI somewhere in this county and get out of it, and someone in a poor community get the same DWI from the same officer, and you would have two different outcomes. And that's not right. So we knew we had to do some things in the public defender's office, and we do have great attorneys that have been there for a long time and do a great job in the county. But their caseloads are huge. They didn't have investigators. They didn't have the tools and resources district attorneys' offices have. And we changed that. And the first step was to get our retiring judge, Herrick, to get on board and come on over, and thank you for that. But the gentleman that we're here to honor today, we were putting notes together, and a lot of things came to mind. And I was thinking, pain in the what? I'm like one of them things Phil always has to say, hey, it takes time, you got to change things. I'm like, now, and I always refer to Terry. I'm like, well, look what he's doing. And but I got to tell you, you drove us crazy at times, but the passion that you have in the community as an attorney, as a representative fighting for the poor, fighting for just anybody that needs a good fight, the only thing I can fault him with is joining the Marine Corps. That's the only thing I could come up that boggled my mind, that why you're a Marine, but that's okay. We'll talk about that another day. But a serviceman that served his country and got the Purple Heart, his father served, he served, his son served, legacy of family, giving back not just to the community but to the country. And that's what you get with Terry. But he had a secret weapon, and it wasn't his son, it was his wife. We got two for the price of one. And I got to tell you, I know where he gets it from. And I want to thank you for not only letting us have him for this last couple years, but for you being there, because you've done just as much for us too. So he would come in, she would follow, and she would correct him when she thought he needed to, he's going too far left. She'd pull him back to the right, and it worked. And I can't thank you enough too for all your help, because when you look at that office and the way we have transformed it and the way we're fighting for people that can't fight for themselves, the outcome has been different this last year and a half. It's been different. We've had great cases, great success, and it starts with leadership, and it starts with the way you train people and giving them tools and the resources. And that's what you did, Terry. That's what you've done. And that's what you've continued to do, the legacy that you leave, not just in the public defender's office, but in the county as a whole, and for people for generations. When you transform a department like that, it's not easy, and it hasn't been easy. And one of the things, this is a bittersweet, because we've come a long way in this office. So to see you retire and move on again, I doubt he's going to retire he'll probably retire a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time. I don't see you going away to the sunset, laying on a beach and just sitting back and looking at the waves. But you have to remember, we are upholding the promise of the landmark Supreme Court decision, Gideon and Wainwright. And that wouldn't have been possible without you and your wife, and without the leadership of Judge Rosen and all the attorneys in the public defender's office. So I cannot thank Terry enough for all that he has done. And I wish him and all the best as he retires from this post at the end of July to resume teaching around the county and country, because I'll get to that part in a minute. But training attorneys and spending more time with his wife and law partner, Lori Shanks, who has been named Fulbright Specialist and will be teaching in San Diego, correct? So to say that this is just ending one chapter and you're opening up another chapter to your life and going in a different directions is not an underscore to your testimony to what you have done and the impression you left on these young attorneys and attorneys that have been in the public defender's office. Because now when we trial people and we defend them in these court systems, they have a fair opportunity. And that's what it's been about with my administration, is making sure that everyone, regardless of social status or income, will have fair representation. Fair representation and a fair opportunity to have a different outcome. because sometimes it's easy just to plead to something because you don't have the means to fight it. You don't know any better, and you say, all right, I'll take the misdemeanor. I didn't do it, but I'm going to take it because I can just walk away. But that one infraction scars you for the rest of your life. And you don't realize it's 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, might be 10 years.
A nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. Gandhi said that. And Gandhi, by the way, was a lawyer. Probably one of the first great public defenders of the 20th century. And at a moment when our government is acting mean-spirited and advocating cruelty and selfishness, and at a time when not all but some actors within our criminal justice system are concocting false evidence to convict people, and I'm sure that you all saw this headline from yesterday, that the New York State Police Scientific Laboratory has been accused, credibly accused, of concocting evidence which could be used to convict innocent people. And there's nothing, Hannah Arendt speaks about about evil, and I think that this is a true example of the banality of evil. Somebody might spend the rest of his or her life in prison, basically convicted on false evidence. In this context, it's the lawyers who are fighting back. It's the lawyers who are protecting the rights of us all. It's the lawyers who are reminding us that there's a hell of a lot more to the Constitution than the Second Amendment. I'm going to be really happy someday when there's a rally on the lawn of the Capitol for the Fourth Amendment, or the Fifth, or the Sixth. But here in the 21st century, and we've entered the golden age of public defense. Here in the 21st century, it's the public defenders who are leading the charge. Because the great majority of people who are accused of crime are represented by public defenders. And in Albany County, and I see several of my colleagues here, and I salute you, I admire you, I love you all. In Albany County, we are especially fortunate because we have a magnificent public defender's office. And I can assure you from close observation over these past 2 years that we have a group of dedicated, compassionate, and smart public defenders who are available, and most people don't know this, but they're available 24 hours a day. Our assistant public defenders have frequently gone out in the middle of the night, gotten up out of bed in the middle of the night to go out to justice courts to represent people who have just been arrested to protect their rights. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And our assistant public defenders here in Albany County are zealously defending their clients, people accused of crimes. And we have to be careful here because being accused of a crime, some people who are accused of crimes are guilty. Some are plain innocent. And some are dramatically overcharged. Now, there have been past public defenders' offices that simply are not as strong and as dedicated and as smart and as capable as ours. The reason that we are so much better, and we are so much better, is because of this man right here. We are liberty's last champions. He is our first champion. He went up to the legislature, he worked with Assembly Member Fahey, and he helped to get passed and signed the single most significant piece of legislation to support public defense that we have ever had in this state and in this county. And for that, we are all profoundly grateful. Also, he doesn't work alone. Phil Calderon is here. Phil has been invaluable. Chris Quinn has been great. Larry Rosen has been terrific. And I'm forgetting other people, and I forgive you, but I forgive me anyway for doing that. Now, my colleagues in the Public Defender's Office, and I see many of you here, and I admire you so much, they give flesh and blood to the words of Justice Black, spoken in the 1960s, when he said, and this is true, when he said there can be no equal justice when the kind of trial that a man gets depends on the amount of money that he has. I love Joe Bruno. I've always loved Joe Bruno. He's a friend of mine. But we found out after Joe Bruno had 2 trials and an appeal, we found out that Joe Bruno's legal fees were $2,400,000. Now, some kid from the south end of Albany, charged with some crime, deserves a defense exactly as sophisticated as Joe Bruno got. That's it, plain and simple. Because if these words are to be more than just words, they have to mean what they say.
As Terry indicated, under County Executive McCoy's leadership, the bill his office drafted and which was sponsored by Assembly Member Pat Fahey resulted in the passage of Governor Cuomo's budget bill in 2017, which implemented the state's takeover of the responsibility for paying for indigent legal services for people charged in criminal cases in this state. In June 2016, the county executive first brought Terry Kindlon into the public defender's office. Terry was just recently retired from his private practice as a defense attorney, and he, with his wife and partner, Professor Lori Shanks, provided training and continuing legal education opportunities to the public defender, attorneys, and professional staff. 5 months later, after being appointed by the county executive and confirmed by the county legislature, and it's only fitting, on Halloween of 2016, I became the public defender. And since then, Terry and I, Terry is my chief assistant, have worked tirelessly, really, with our dedicated staff for over 18 months to bring about change, positive change in this office, which has been very noticeable in this community.
Thank you so much. It has been my honor. I have been doing criminal defense training throughout the county, throughout the state, throughout the country, and nationally. And sometimes people say that it's worth every cent that I'm not getting paid. But it has been my honor, and I hope to continue to do that. I think that the representation and becoming a voice for people who don't have any other voice. I've told my law students who I taught at the law school for 27 years, I've told the attorneys that I've trained for, that the satisfaction that you get, that I feel that my clients do much more for me than I do for them. And I hope to continue to do that locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally. So thank you very much.